AI governance for virtualized infrastructure. What vSphere admins need to know. With Marian Newsom. There we go. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to the show. Marian, it's a pleasure to have you on. Welcome to vBrownBag. We have some common friends that we've talked to in the past together, and if Gina comes by, we will be dropping her in as well. She's okay. An old friend of ours as well. Welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well tonight. Looking forward to the discussion. This is my first time here, and heard a lot of great things about you guys from Gina.
It's all lies. It's everything she said has been false. But we appreciate paying her off to say good things about us. Yeah. So before we get into AI governance and virtualized infrastructure, I mean, obviously AI is a very hot topic right now, and we've been wanting to. And whenever somebody says, "Hey, I want to talk about this AI thing," we're like, "Bring it on. Let's figure out what's going on." Governance is not something that we've heard a lot about from. There's a lot of noise about agents and MCP and things like that, right. But I'm not going to say the important things like controlling it and making sure that it's secure and making sure that your policies are in line with what either your government or enterprise says it should be. Those are things that kind of get glossed over because those are the hard things. So
the hard things, they're the things that people look at that, hey, that slows us down. We're trying to go warp speed, and here you come in with controls. And what are you doing to innovation? So don't hear a lot about it. That's for sure.
Okay, we're absolutely gonna get into all of that. But first, tech aunties. I heard the name. I looked into it a little bit, but I didn't want to pollute myself and know things. I wanted to ask you questions. Greenfield, about tell us about Tech Aunties. That sounds so much fun.
So Tech Aunties is a podcast that Gina Rosenthal actually started about 6 years ago. And so I'm her co-host there. We talk about tech. Between the two of us, we call ourselves aunties because we have, I'm not going to say 100 years of experience, but we have a lot of experience in tech, and we like to spill the tea on different things that we know about in the tech, just from being around and being alive that long. So we talk about all kinds of things. Yeah.
Cool. Charlotte, Damien, had you heard of Tech Aunties before this? So Gina is a friend that Damien and I know through the old VMware circles and everything like that. Mm-hmm. But this was something that I hadn't heard about. Charlotte, had you heard about it?
No, but I get called auntie now.
That's that day you wake up and you realize my salad days are behind me. Where's my youth at? But it's a good thing. It's your season. You're more likely to not filter so much. And so I actually like being an auntie.
I'm loving it. But no, I love that. I had not heard it, but I'm loving that. I like that.
And all three of you are down in Texas, right? So we have 3 Texans and 1 New Englander in the. I feel like I'm being run out here now.
Yeah, we're actually kind of representing the most important parts of Texas, and that's the triangle between Houston, Austin, and the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So everything else is just boring. You got to drive too far.
That's funny.
So yeah. Speaking of aunties, my 15-year-old, he started calling me Unc, right, for uncle. But he also likes to call me twin, right? And so the other day he shot me an email from his school account and he called me Twunk. And I was like, absolutely not. Like that just sounds like a twink that failed or something. Like, no.
Like it's an old, a slightly overweight twink, a twunk.
Yeah. Twunk is not working for me. I was like, can we just go back to like bro, please? Like,
welcome to vBrownBag, the technical podcast where we learn all. Never mind.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
Hello, everyone.
I'm sorry. Say again.
I was just saying hello, everyone. People are saying hi.
You know what? I'm not even looking. Oh, Keith's in here.
Yeah, exactly. While we're in here, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Mr. Townsend is a dear old friend and a fan of the show, and we're a fan of his. So You know what? Let's go ahead and get into it, because AI governance is going to be a lot to chew on, and there's going to be a lot of questions that we're going to have that this could spiral out, and we have a very short amount of time. So I want to get into all of the things, and if Gina comes in, we'll add her into the room as well.
Okay.
So I've brought up your deck, and we are good to go.
Okay. And so just a brief introduction about me. Like I said, I am a tech auntie. I've been in tech. I can't even name the year. It's been so long. I actually entered tech when women actually, my first job, I had to wear a skirt and do network cabling. So I have seen a lot of changes in tech. I have been everything from network to SCADA systems to, I started as an AI, an ethical hacker when I first started trying to move into corporate. That's how I got into cybersecurity. And from there, I'm a person, personality-wise, who will ask why 5 times. And so governance, audit, security, and privacy was a perfect fit for me. And so I've been a sysadmin, I've been a network admin, I've been a security person, I've been on red teams, and I have been in governance. So when I say I've seen your logs, I know what you deal with as a sysadmin. I know what they look like. And so when we start to talk about governance, we really are talking about governance has to be a defined decision. Who has the rights? Where are the inherent controls to control things situations when things go bad? So where is the evidence that you can prove that you have the controls to say that, hey, I am controlling my AI and it is a part of my system? Am I clicking slides or you guys?
You are clicking slides. So right now we are on the I've seen your logs, I know what they look like slide.
And so when I talk about AI governance, I really kind of talk about it in 4 questions that sysadmins need to be able to answer. So one is who owns it? That for governance of any kind, that is the accountability. That's the role assignment for every AI workload. So if you think about it, I think as soon as when you say, I don't have AI within my architecture, you're really saying that you don't have any AI workload. There's no AI applications. So you still have to account for, and then there's shadow AI. So who owns it? Can you prove it? Can you prove what it's actually doing in the background? Do you have the logs? Do you have evidence-grade documentation for when you're audited or a regulator shows up? Can you even survive if that AI causes unseen consequences? So is there resilience? Is there DR coverage? And is there recovery capabilities? And then can you defend it? When your board or your CIO comes to you and says, hey, are we doing this, this, and this? Are we following these new AI emerging regulations? Can you actually defend that? So every governance maps back to one of those 4 questions. I think I had a real life example. So this is actually a real life example where there was a misconfigured SAS token on an Azure storage, and it exposed 38 terabytes of Microsoft AI training data. And so internal backups, you have team messagings. The stakes are pretty high now that the regulations are actually emerging. The EU AI Act is probably the most prominent one, where you can have fines up to 35 million pounds or 7% of the global annual revenue. And you need to be looking at those high risk AI system failures. And whichever is the higher penalty, they're going to actually charge you. Any questions there?
I hadn't heard of the AI Act. Is that related to GDPR or?
No, it's actually different than GDPR. And so that's where companies are really struggling, is that this EU AI Act, it is all about your AI and how your AI performs, how you know the transparency of it. How do you know your algorithm, what it's doing, what data is it producing to make those decisions? And so for a lot of multinational companies, it's really straining them to have to do GDPR, do all of the cross-border data management that's coming out, and also do this EU AI Act.
Interesting. So, sorry, Damien actually got kicked out of the restream. He'll be back in a second, but he's still listening to your response and said thank you.
Okay. And so I always get a question about why do I cite the EU AI Act and not the US Act? We don't have one. We have a executive order that has recently come out We have some different things in the software world around your software build, but a comprehensive national AI Act or guideline we don't have. There are individual states that have them. Texas has one that went into effect in January, Colorado, California. So we don't have a national standard, and that's why I don't have it here.
Do you know, like, is one in the works? Is it being thought about for national?
Well, so it is. How far that progress is going, we haven't seen a lot of progress there. I think we know with the current administration, we've seen a lot of the tech companies and the tech leadership or tech bros go to Washington and have different summits about innovation in AI. And the AI race is becoming more and more like the moon race. But not a lot of talk about how are we going to govern it, how are we going to control it, how are we going to make sure it's actually doing what we intend for it to do.
Yeah, I'm actually, well, I'm not surprised because I'm aware that it exists, but I'm always, I don't know, I always find it interesting that Texas is one of the ones that have, like, they do have something. I always find that interesting.
Oh, and the reason for us is we have the oil companies, right? And so they're high risk. Like I said, I used to work for Cross Timbers. It's now part of Exxon. And so what we call governance now, they used to call safety reliability. And it really was, how do I keep from getting people injured on the job? And so they're always looking at their bottom line and how can I survive harm?
Yeah, and see, that's also fun too. So I worked at Exxon for a number of years on the ship side doing networking.
Really?
Yeah, so safety first, nobody gets hurt.
Exactly. And so that's how they've translated that to their tech risk and their tech acceptance. Who can get hurt? As long as we're covering that, then that's our first focus. So that's why we have a lot of first in Texas around, and that's why we have the AI Act. So this one is kind of where we look at what the C-suite is going to ask an admin, and how do you translate that to your vSphere? So C-suite may be asking for inventory of AI systems. This is actually a requirement in a lot of the state laws and in the EU AI Act. In the EU AI Act, you actually have to rate them for high risk. And how are you actually treating those systems if they go wrong? What is that kind of blast radius for the AI if it fails? And so inventory of systems, if we look at the vSphere, we're looking at the vCenter clusters. We're looking at workload domains and data stores. If we talk about high risk AI isolation, so how do you, if you have an issue with your AI, how do you isolate that? How do you segmentate that off of the network to keep that blast radius as small as possible? So there you're looking at NSX segments, you're looking at workload domains and boundaries. So how do you just get that off the system until you can fix it? And then of course, guardrails and controls are a very big part of governance in general. And with AI, they become even more important because you have to be able to monitor that AI. And if that AI decides, hey, I'm going to make some decisions because I'm fatigued, what are those guardrails and controls you have in place? So for a sysadmin, you're really responsible for making sure you have the resource pools, your DRS rules are in place, you've got role-based access, you've got some type of mission control that you can actually prove that's in place. So that kind of leads us to that regulatory evidence. Do you have the logs? Do you have the change records? Do you have the access trail? And do you have those retention policies to keep that evidence around as long as for the regulators may ask for it? And then my favorite is the recovery capabilities. So you always think you have recovery capabilities. It's kind of like a faith in your backups. So your snapshots, your backup policies, and then your DR orchestration. And so when is the last time you tested it? Do you know all the pieces will work? Do you know where you have fallover for the different AI, your different workloads, your infrastructure, and your vSphere? And the takeaway here is, as admins, you already manage the controls. It's really just the gap about translating them into governance language. And now AI kind of adds that extra layer. So it becomes more important as you get into governance that you understand the AI impacts as well. So I know you said you had not heard of the EU AI Act, but there have been some key dates and it's been around for quite some time now. But this is kind of that timeline. So started in 2024. 2025 was really when companies started to say, hey, we're kind of recovering from the fatigue of GDPR. And now here comes the EU AI Act, bans unaccessible AI applications. August 2025, that's when we saw rules that really operationalized the parts of the act around assessment of your applications, understanding their risk profile, understanding what your AI is actually doing, being able to take that black box, open it up, and explain what is actually going on under the cover there. And so as we come up to August 2026, this is where you really have to have and understand in your risk profile across your infrastructure, across your vSphere, where are those high risk AI obligations that could really bite you, that could really cause chaos on the network, that you need to be aware of, that you need extra controls around, that you need to be able to prove that you're in compliance with the EU AI Act. And so if you're a company and you have any data, you're servicing companies that are in the EU or customers, this does apply to you if you're using AI. So the chat bots, a lot of different payment systems that I've become aware of in the last 2 years actually fall under those kind of high risk AI obligations. And then in August 2027, they're expecting a full rollout. And so that's when you have to really get in and know your full risk profile all the way down to your legacy systems. So here I just have a note about clusters. You need to also, they must be traceable, monitored, and recoverable also. So now we kind of get into the less positive side of AI governance or governance in general, is what breaks first. So you can't protect what you don't know about. You can't control what you don't know about. And so AI workloads, they are occurring more often, more in the VM world. You have to have a reliable way to distinguish what is training and what is actual live data, where the server is at. And when the auditor asks, you have to be able to prove that they're actually there. They're actually either preventing something, reporting something, actually detecting something, and actually working the way you expect them to work. One of the areas I see some issues, I've seen issues in my different clients, is around that shared GPU clusters. So here's where you're mixing those high-risk AI workloads. You have your training data, you may have production data across the same paths as your production traffic. So that's where, from a regulatory perspective and a governance perspective, that's considered high risk, because if that training data bleeds over into your production traffic, you've got problems. So you want to make sure your segmentation is strong, you're segmented and segregated those data, you know what is the training data versus what is actual production traffic. And then logging, I think it just goes back to the default configurations. How intense do I need to log? What do I need to log? And from my AI governance perspective, it really comes down to data confidentiality, data sensitivity, and the data sets that AI may be making. You also have to include those. I think a lot of companies look at, this is the data element I have in my application. This is the data elements I have on my network. This is what my IoT is doing. This is what my firewalls are seeing. But you really need to know where you have those kind of crown jewels. What do you need to be protecting? What if it leaked? Could cause you reputational risk. And then the regulators would come in and you'd have to explain not only your AI, but also your controls on the network, not only for the AI, but how it actually integrates with the rest of the network.
Marian, can I ask a dumb question?
Sure.
When we're talking about AI workloads here, especially ones that are running locally on a virtualized infrastructure in like a colo or like not in the cloud, as when we think of an AI workload, obviously we're talking about local systems that have like a local LLM and things like that. But what about an application that just has an API out to Claude and just leverages that kind of like where is the line drawn from a governance perspective on what equals an AI workload?
And so that's going to depend on the company, because a lot of those companies, just say pipe into Claude or API into Claude. Some of the things that they're using Claude for is coding. I've seen where they are actually using non-anonymized data, pushing it back and forth between Claude and local
Right.
apps.
Yeah. I mean, because that can, I mean, that's a whole rat's nest, and that's kind of what I was getting at. Like, where do is that? I mean, is that a dumb question, or is it like based
No,
upon
it's not,
the?
because it's a mistake and an incident waiting to happen that companies make all the time, because they say, okay, it's very little data. If I look at all of my traffic, everything I have on my network, everything I have in my vSphere, that's minimal, right? So you're looking at volume of data versus the risk and the data sensitivity and confidentiality. So what are you pushing? If you're pushing, let's take payment information. If you're pushing payment information, credit card, ACH through that pipe, then that's a high risk. That's no longer just, hey, we've got less than 100 transactions going through here, but you're pushing really sensitive data, regulatory protected data in that API. And so if you have a problem, if you have a breach, if it's not being used just for training, you're using production and Claude is doing something else with it, that becomes an incident, especially cross-border.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That clears it up.
And there are no dumb questions. I mean, they're questions, right? And
trust me. No, Charlotte tells me all the time, Chris, stop asking those stupid questions. She's always getting on to me about that. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, who else should we trust our credit card information to than Elon and Grok and Doge? Because I mean, they help the government out so much. They should be able to just have my credit card information too, right? You know what? Never mind. I'm not even going to go down that line.
And you can live in their town here in Texas. So
that's right. He's down there with you guys. I'm so sorry. This is awful.
So are we. At least you don't have to see cyber trucks go by your house on the toll road all day long. Ooh. So yeah.
And they have them in different colors. I saw a pink one and a red one. I'm thinking, nah,
no, ma'am.
Not for me.
A pink cyber truck? That's layers of abuse right there. Why would they even do that? Oh,
it was when I saw it was Mary Kay.
Maybe that was what it was.
Sorry. It was a Mary Kay one, and it was pink, and I was like, oh no.
A Mary Kay Cybertruck.
You're really touched with makeup at that point.
That woman's name was Karen, legally and spiritually. I'm sorry. I've gone off the rails. I'll shut up now.
Oh, no. I like questions. I hear myself sometimes even when I sleep. So please ask questions. Here is what I use as a 3-sentence answer template that I say for sysadmins, for anyone new in any circumstances, and the way your CISO talks, the way your chief risk officer talks is totally different than what you're talking in your technical space, in your technical world. And so a lot of times the sysadmin is actually kind of that translator bridge. So you have to know the technical, you have to be able to speak that business risk. And so you get asked these questions the most. So when they ask about AI workload controls from a governance standpoint, because they're going to be asking, because as the regulations start to come down, as we have more and more data privacy incidents, more and more security incidents involving AI, they're going to be asking the questions. And so this is that 3-sentence answer template that I really rely on when I'm actually training people about AI governance. So question number 1 is, do we have role-based access to restrict that model development and the rights to 3 named services accounts? This is one that comes up. You usually get it from the CISOs. Who has access to this? Do you know what's going on? Why did this happen? Why did that person have access? So you need to be able to answer that. You need to be able to state the control that is actually in place. The next one is ownership. And we know how I want to say chaotic and sometimes sporadic those CMDB systems can be under those AI workload domains, and they're managed through like standard change processes, which we all know have historically had issues with change management, rollbacks. And so you have to be able to show ownership. Who owns that? Who's the documented owner? That person is responsible. And so that's a question you'll get. And then the third one is, can we actually produce the access logs and define retention on request? This is one that is written into a lot of the AI regulations that are coming about. And so you have to be able to offer that evidence. And as we see more and more incidents in this space, that is actually becoming actually more critical. So if you take those three sentences, those are your top three that you want to add, and then you look at your top 5 AI adjacent controls before Friday, you'll be able to answer that. So you don't have to boil the ocean or understand everything about AI, but those 3 are critical. So this is just a scenario I included to kind of go through the shadow AI, right? So there are a lot of companies now that say, oh, we don't have AI anywhere, but you're running Office 365 with Copilot, and everyone in their seats is using it to do everything from IRT to write policies, to actually, I've actually seen it summarizing into Splunk, things like that. And so you're saying you don't have AI as a chief risk officer, but you have it there. You also have people who use their laptops, bring it in, and you see little bulletins on the network, or someone will report to the help desk, well, I just saw this bulletin from X AI saying that I could log in, or I have access to this. And you know, shadow AI is just the grown-up cousin of shadow IT. And so here is the things that if you look at an HR system that's usually running an AI screening tool or something on a VM for 6 months, these are the things you really want to look at. If there's no documentation, there's no DR coverage, because it is shadow IT and shadow AI. That last sentence about bringing under standard controls, that's probably the hardest thing to do. Tag it, isolate it. I think over the course of my career, it's always a fight between the business and IT to actually be able to do those things.
I would say that if there was a business leader that claimed they didn't have AI anywhere, I think that would be like one of the very big red flags that person is full of it. Like, it is impossible to have it nowhere, you know, like that's just wild.
But you know, I hear that a lot.
No, you do not. Really?
I do. And it's because they sit so high, right? They're not in the day-to-day technical, or the other, and I name no names, but there are a lot of executives, board members, chief risk officers. They don't really understand AI. They hear AI and it's like, oh, it's something brand new. And so when they found out, no, AI has been around in some way, shape, or form for quite some time. It's got a big marketing hype around here lately. And so they don't understand AI. And so when you say, do you have AI in your environment? Oh, no, we don't have that. We have something that screens our job applications. We may have something in Workday, but they don't understand what AI is. That's the bigger problem.
We need to get a video clip of an 80-year-old senator explaining AI on this floor of the Senate, just like remember when Strom Thurmond said the series of tubes. It's not
that wasn't Strom Thurmond. That was
who was it?
That
it doesn't
Strom
matter.
Thurmond was a lot older. Yeah, it was Ted something or other from Alaska. But yeah, it was a series of tubes.
We need to get a soundbite of one of those guys trying to like explain AI in 2026. See if we can get that done.
Yeah, as a parent of teenagers, I feel like saying there's no AI in my company is the same as saying my children don't curse behind my back, right? Like,
right.
They do. You just haven't heard it.
Right.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, it really comes down to what does your CIO know? What does your board know? And it's not, Sora at night and those kind of things, but That's the bigger problem. Here, I just kind of talk about as a sysadmin, you are the evidence layer. You're not responsible for creating the policy. You're not legal. You're not infrastructure. You're not security. You don't do the modeling and the data for the AI. You're not in compliance. So who owns what? And this becomes, when we talk about ownership, a real issue because there is a blend. There are some organizations that are set up that these functions, they may not have their own title. They're all part of one organization, but where does that function lie? And so understanding where you are, where you fit in that evidence layer, that is where you need to know where you know your lane, and then understand that control governance, it's really not a burden, and acts as a sysadmin because you actually understand the environment, know the infrastructure controls. You actually have the leverage of knowing where those controls are, how you actually can help compliance, help the modeling and the data with these AI models. They won't come to you and ask, but you actually do have the leverage and the control to be able to speak to those things because you do sit in that world between the technical and the business risk. And then, of course, what not to do. Don't invent frameworks. There are a lot of frameworks out there. NIST has a framework. I'm an IEEE certified AI lead assessor, so they have a framework. IAPP has a framework. There's all kind of frameworks. Don't invent one. Find out what meets for you. Talk to your audit governance people. Find out what is good for your environment. If you have to blend frameworks, then blend them. But make sure whatever you put in place is actually for your environment, tailored for your environment. You don't own governance, as we said before. When it comes to ownership, you own the infrastructure controls. Governance ownership should really sit with legal and compliance because they need to understand the risk profile. They need to be able to understand when they have to notify customers or corporate clients or government agencies about actual breaches, privacy, data, or even that algorithm doing something that's not intended. Governance is not a tool, so don't go out chasing new tools. It just really using your existing tools to prove what you are doing to mitigate a lot of the risk out there around AI workloads. Even those APIs, even in those situations where, and so this is another one that comes up a lot, is where people are actually moving data from the cloud in an AI app to a lower production, and they have lesser controls. They may even use lesser hashes. I was at a recent Tech Field Day, this came up, and there are companies who are building really nice, really great AI infrastructure tools and platforms, but be sure you understand what that tool is, but make sure you can also apply your existing tools, your existing controls to any new ones that are coming into that environment. And if they don't fit, then you need to speak with compliance, speak with legal to make sure that they understand technically what that means to your network, what risk it opens up, even what data pass, and what traffic on the edge of your network. And then just don't skip the change control. This has been an issue forever in governance, in life. With AI, it's no different. As we start to talk about this, I think it's still a little early. Quantum technology, it becomes more and more critical that you understand what you're changing, the impact of it. Model updates can kill your audit trail because it can start a new trail. So understand those standard change controls and why they should apply.
Does so skipping change control has, as you say, always been a huge issue, but does version control in code kind of help with that? Being able to run back a Git trail and do a Git blame, does that help in the AI workload workspace as well as it does in software?
It does, because you have a trail of what's happening.
Okay.
So that's all I had. I'm open for questions or.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, do you have a page where people can find you?
I do. So I'm on
Okay.
LinkedIn as Marian Newsom. I actually have a newsletter where I talk about AI governance. I talk about privacy, security as it impacts AI. I actually have we talked about those executives who don't know what AI is. On my website, there is a glossary there with those terms mapped to the actual regulatory, just a few. So like the SEC, the EU Act, we have a map. I have a map to NIST as well. And then I'm actually beta testing field notes and kits. And so if you have something that I didn't talk about here, or you thought about it when you go back, if you'll GM me, I'd like to talk more about it. And then we can see about including them in kind of my beta kit, because I get a lot of questions about how does governance and AI go together. And I think I said at the beginning, AI is known for innovation. It's known for speed. We want to amaze the world. And so governance kind of falls between that tech for good, what we can do and what we should be doing. Mm-hmm. So I'm always open to hearing other people's feedback or saying, hey, I have a need here. Could you help me? So definitely reach out.
Awesome. Very cool. One quick question that I had early on, you mentioned the EU AI Act and mm-hmm. how we haven't quite gotten there yet in the States. Are there any lessons that we can take from what they've already done over there in regards to, have you seen something like, oh yeah, that's brilliant, we should absolutely be doing that, or that did not work for them and there were like hidden ramifications that we now should do better over here?
So I would say one of the lessons learned is timing, right? So we mentioned GDPR. So EU was coming out of all of that GDPR and having just compliance fatigue. And so educating people on a new act as comprehensive as the EU AI Act is, it was just timing. You have to have better timing and understand the cost, the effort that it actually takes to comply to new regulations and act. I think the biggest lesson learned is the thing that they did well is that it's a united standard, right? So if you're doing business in the EU, I know what I have to do. I know the minimum. I know what I have to do with my data. I know what my infrastructure needs to be able to prove. And I know who's going to come after me if I don't do it. And so here we're kind of taking that federated approach to states' rights. I'll come up with mine, you come up with yours. And so if I'm doing business across all 50 states and the territories, as a company, I'm now having to think about what am I doing here in California versus what am I doing in Texas versus Colorado. And some of them actually have different objectives as to why they're trying to control the AI. And so I think that's what
What do you mean? What does that mean? Like different objectives?
So like we talked about, I can see you smiling there. We talked about Texas, where we're really protective of our revenue.
High risk and risk averse, right?
Petroleum. And so we're really focused on the ROI and the impact to fines. And so we don't want you in our state causing harm that you can't fix. We can't fine you around, that we don't have contractual obligations for you to be penalized around. And so our AI Act is heavy upon just procurement. Whereas in California, it's more on privacy, on data privacy, your rights as a consumer. And so there are different objectives. I mean, we have different senators, different priorities as states. And so that's reflected in a lot of those states' rights AI acts.
So when somebody wants to like make sure that their AI workload is compliant and run in all 50 states, do they layer on all of these different, and they want to have like one cohesive, like just service, and they're not just doing it by state. Do they just layer on all of these different compliance rules and then just say, okay, like these are like add on California's, add on Texas's, and then like the most stringent one wins basically? Or
so
different?
Actually what they do, and so maybe I'm going to spill the tea here. I know it's not tech aunties, but I'm going to spill a little tea here.
Okay.
What they actually do is they say, okay, if I have a breach, so New York has a really good notification law. So if I have a breach in New York, is it going to make the New York Times? And so I want to make sure if I'm doing business in all 50 states, that I'm at least compliant with New York in all 50 states. I can take the hit in the states that have no AI Act. I'm good there. So if Arizona doesn't have the notification that California and New York has, I'm okay. I'm okay with going back.
They just don't notify, or
they have no contractual or regulatory obligation to notify. And so when you talk about what is the business risk assessment, when it comes to controls and governance, a lot of those conversations go that way. I'd be willing to pay a settlement in X state to keep from having the regulators come in and tear my business apart in New York or California.
Right. Yeah, it's always a cost analysis, right? Like, you know, is losing one human life more or less expensive than putting this extra control in place? I mean, and anyways, I am very cynical about those sorts of things. I do want to congratulate you, Marian. Marian, you have done an excellent job of being very professional and not biased in your answers. I would not be personally capable of speaking as professionally as you have been when it comes to those sorts of things, because I don't know.
You're jaded. You're cynical.
I'm a little bit jaded. Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever watch Hamilton? Yeah. So there's that line, like, nothing is illegal in New Jersey. Like, that's what I think about America now. Like, laws, what are those for? You've done an excellent job of navigating it, because it is a very nuanced conversation.
Well, thank you. I was actually a little bit anxious to come on tonight after I watched the Pam Bundy hearing today with all the screaming. It kind of reminded me of the British Parliament.
Oh, you can't watch that stuff. That's just gonna tear at your soul. You know what? I saw like a 3-second clip of that on Instagram. I was like, nope. I just flipped. I said, I am not interested in this, and I clicked away. Nothing. No.
Yeah.
I'm purging my brain. I'm just watching like puppies and kittens now.
Yeah, there is an amount of like self-care in not paying as close attention to the news as you might have done in the past. So yeah. There's a question from the audience. So Jake Lundberg asks, how can you coach auditors to the benefits of automation and simplifying controls?
So a lot of times auditors need to understand everything doesn't require military grade controls. And so a lot of times auditors come into areas that they are not technically savvy in. And so you have to be able to convince them, say, hey, what is it you need to see? Do you need to see traceability? Do you need to see the logs? Do you need to see how we fall over? Do you need to see how our process operates? What exactly is it that you need to see? And then I can produce that technically. But a lot of times auditors just come in. We used to call them checklist auditors. I still do. They come in with a checklist. I need this, this, and that. But being able to translate that to your world, that doesn't always happen. So you have to really just have the real talk with them. What is it you actually need to see? And even if you set them through a walkthrough, half of them wouldn't understand the technical controls. So what is it you need to see? I can prove that to you. And always go in confident. Don't be afraid to speak up to them. A lot of times they kind of push you around.
I've been on the receiving side of many an audit back in the day. So yeah, it really is interesting getting your perspective on it and some kind of like behind the scenes from that perspective, because when they come in, if they are the kind of person as your personality indicates that they're not going to get pushed around, it can be a tough day. It could be like, I don't know how that works.
Yeah,
that is like the worst statement to say. I learned that at Exxon when I was on the receiving end of auditing. So I got really good about responding with things like, oh, you know what? let me go find that out for you. I'll get back to you.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
don't say that out loud. You're thinking that. You're like, I've never even had to think about that. Let me go figure that out now.
Let me go figure that out. I'll get back to you.
And the other thing is, if they ask for documentation, you don't have it, just say, I don't have it.
Yep.
We do tribal knowledge. I don't have it. Go ahead and write the issue. Otherwise, you'll spend the whole audit period creating new desktop procedures
Yeah.
that you're going to have to change because they're going to write an issue all over your process anyway. So just say it. I don't have it. I don't have
Get it
it.
done with.
This is what we do. You're welcome to observe me. I don't have it. Write the issue.
Yep. You know, I do not miss those days. Now that we're
I don't. I was just flashing back to a room full of Ernst and Young people in suits, and it's like, just give them whatever they want. Like, don't ask questions, just give it to them. And it's like, Jesus, this sucks. So, yeah.
not a fun
I don't
time.
miss that one bit. No.
So do you find yourself working with like companies like AI Center of Excellence? Like, do they reach out or anything like that?
So I do belong to different groups and societies. I actually help write AI standards for IEEE on their different technology systems, healthcare systems, actual ethics and governance standards. So I work with a lot of different groups and organizations. But as customers and clients, I get a lot of, just because of my background and where I'm at, a lot of high risk industries. Because being in Fort Worth, we have defense, we have railroad, we have oil, we have healthcare. And then if you widen that to Dallas, Dallas is a financial center. So I end up working in a lot of those areas.
Doesn't Fort Worth also have beer? Like Miller Lite is based out of there or something, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the Budweiser factory is about
Yeah.
10 miles from my house. My nephew is quite acquainted with it. We have a lot of craft beer.
Yeah.
A lot of
That
craft
is about
beer.
all I remember about Fort Worth.
Yeah.
There's
You
a
can tell
story
you
there.
everywhere they curate beer with barbecue.
Yep.
Yeah. We have the stockyard, so we're where the West begins.
So much Texas here. I don't know what to do.
I mean, it's a big state, man. It's a big state.
I was driving a buddy. He had tried to make it in LA and he did not. And he originally came from Mobile, Alabama. And so his mom flew me to LA to help him drive his U-Haul back. And the longest, most interminable time that we had was the 2 days it took to drive across Texas. I was like, you can drive across Alabama in like 4 hours. You can drive across Mississippi in about 5 hours if you go really fast. Texas, 2 days. I was like, holy, it never ended. It never ended. That is a humongous state.
I've done that once and never again. It was actually by train. I had a graduation gift where it was just like, hey, you could take Amtrak all across the country wherever you want to go. And yeah, it literally took 2 days just to get out of Texas. I never did that again.
Jake and Keith are talking about train rides and the prospects for AI in the chat thread. No other questions though. Comments and opining from Jake and Keith. Jake works with me at HashiCorp. He's a field CTO. So nice guy. Good taste in jackets too. All right. What other questions do we have? Anything else that we wanted to get into the weeds about?
I don't know if I have any more questions necessarily. But yeah, I think I'm good.
Yeah, like I have questions, but that might be for another time because like I feel like we have a lot we could talk about. I too had to network in a skirt on a ship, so I remember those days very well.
Yeah, so I actually started a long time ago. So people tease me about being someone who has worked physical security as well as technical security. So I actually started out a long time ago in another lifetime as an immigration officer on the southern border.
Wow.
And so to see where it is now, probably not going to be so politically correct, to see where it is now versus when I used to do it is really, really tragic. And so, but yeah, there are some uses with AI, with the current political climate, that there's a lot to digest there. But yeah, I used to network in a skirt, women in STEM, always out there saying, hey, we need more of us. Don't always take the project management route. Use your brain. Use your brain. If that's the way you get in, you get in. Be a Trojan horse, get in, do what you need.
Being forced to wear a skirt sounds like cruel and unusual punishment, but also free air conditioning if you live in Texas. So that's probably pretty
It
nice.
is hot. It is hot. You have on extra clothing.
Yeah.
Crawling. It's just terrible. Yeah, that was at EDS. They at that point they wanted women to. They still had the rule: women had to wear skirts and dresses. You could not wear pants, and so when you went out on a client, you would slip in your sweatpants or bicycle shorts at that time, and you would get up there and you would climb and you would hang that cable. It was one of the reasons I went into their software engineering classes because I thought, if I have to do that again, I'm not going to do that. It's too hot.
Sorry. I
No, go ahead.
was going to ask a question from the audience. So Keith is curious who is leading in this space from a vendor tool perspective.
So Keith, I think the field is pretty wide open. I recently saw some, so OneTrust is a big one in the compliance space. And so Cisco has some partnership with OneTrust. There's also OneTrust with Cisco. And then they also have their own AI, which is a little bit frightening, that they're actually coming up and using some of the Claude and ChatGPT LLMs that you can customize. But right now, it would have to be Cisco. Coming off a recent Tech Field Day, I saw a lot of good things from them that they didn't even know that they had for AI governance. Another one would be Forward Networks. It's coming out with some really good stuff. And then Excite actually has some really exciting things that you can actually do at the chip level to actually help with governance, security, and privacy. So there are some people stepping up, but right now I hate to say it, it's those big five vendors again. It's those same vendors. So there's a lot of innovation in this space that's needed.
Nice. You said Tech Field Day. Are you in with the Foskett crew as well then?
I am. So I have done a couple Tech Field Days. Yeah, so I have done those. Very interesting, some of them. Some of the stories that match what they're trying to sell and what they're actually selling. That's always a pleasure to hear those fairy tales. But yeah.
I think all of us, Damien, you've done Tech Field Days too, right? Charlotte and I have both done them.
I've presented. Does that count?
Sure. Yeah. No, that totally counts. Absolutely. That's actually worse. That's the hardest part, getting up there and facing the firing squad.
Well, I didn't do the real full blown thing. It was kind of a smaller presentation to a Tech Field Day crowd. But yeah, I've known Foskett for years, and I always wanted to go on Tech Field Day, but I also worked for EMC and Dell and VMware for a long time, and Foskett was like, nah.
Yeah. Well, that's because we're vendor trash now. There's
right. Yeah. So
is it vendor trash, vendor scum? I forget. There's
vendor
a
scum.
There's a Slack channel dedicated to us in the Tech Field Day. Another question from Jake for Marian. What's missing? You ask for innovation. What's not being done well in the space?
So integration, right, with the existing security privacy tools, even the infrastructure tools, where a tool like OneTrust should be able to go grab those logs They have some great dashboards, which are just that. They're pretty pictures, but being able to integrate that data that comes out of those security and privacy tools to be able to tell you where your data is at, where you have AI at, and what it's actually doing, that those auditors wouldn't have to interact with you. They could pull that log from OneTrust. It would definitely help with breaches. I could know when my data is actually where it's at and why it shouldn't be there. And if it is out there somewhere I don't want it to be, I could actually integrate with Splunk and know that. But right now it's just so segmented.
I think we just lost Chris.
No,
Yeah.
the camera camera just randomly dropped. I wasn't even touching anything. I will have to complain to Restream. That has been like a perennial issue, though, hasn't it? Getting good integration between the thing that looks at everything and the system that confirms that, yes, we are saying what we're actually doing. We tried, I mean, going back to the VROPS days, we were to the VMware days, back when VMware was still, you know, we tried to make that happen with VROPS. We were trying to connect CMDBs and VROPS and with the governance and compliance frameworks, and yeah, that was always the biggest bear that we were trying to wrestle.
Well, it's interesting that they can integrate with anything else that comes along. You know, any emerging technology can plug right into the infrastructure, but governance and compliance, nah.
It's not sexy.
We want to build this Chinese wall you can't get through, and then we want to annoy you all day about getting what we need.
Yeah. I think it's just because it's not there's not a very great big marketing story there, right? Like it is a fact of life that you have to deal with it, but it's like it's not fun. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one thing with the AI tools we are seeing. You know, we've got SquareX out there from a browser perspective, really looking at how do you know exactly where your risks are, what data is going in and out of the of your infrastructure and your environment. So that's actually helping from a governance perspective. Some of the new, you know, AI looking at all of the stack, that would help with that. But it would be nice if they included those type of people, me, on testing those tools to be able to say, hey, I can look at it from security, privacy. So we have to have more blended skill sets involved in the testing, especially as we start talking about going faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that, because velocity was always the excuse to not do it, and it's kind of like a chicken and the egg issue from that perspective. I mean, you have to have the governance, and them using that as an excuse doesn't wash. All right, so apologies. We actually hit time. I rolled the randomizer. And hilariously, Keith Townsend is the winner of this week's AWS compute credits. Keith, I don't know if you need them or not. If you do, I'm more than happy to give them to you. Or if you want to, I don't donate them to somebody or whatever. I'll call you and we'll figure it out. So congratulations, Mr. Townsend, to winning the weekly gift. Marian, thank you so much for coming on. It's funny when somebody comes on the show that we should have known all along, simply because you know all the folks that we know, and we're like, how did we miss that? How did we not have you on 10 years ago? So thank you for finally coming on. We appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
So thank you once again, Marian, and we will be chatting more often than just once now. Now that we know that you're probably in all the same Slack channels that we are, so we're definitely going to say hi.
Probably.
All right, everybody, have a wonderful night, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.